to ask the First Minister whether she will provide an update on HIAL's proposed centralisation of air traffic control services.
First Minister.
While this is a matter for HIAL, clearly the Scottish Government has a strong interest and we are liaising and monitoring the process closely. The investment being made in air traffic control is essential to secure the long-term future of air services in the Highlands and Islands. The objective of the Central Surveillance Centre in Inverness is to ensure safer, more sustainable and more reliable air services for the communities that rely on them. We know that this decision may affect where staff work in the future, and I understand that HIAL is engaging directly with Prospect Union on the detail of a commuting policy and other measures to mitigate that. But we also shouldn't lose sight of what this investment and change is intended to deliver in the long term, which is security for islands' connectivity with related social and economic benefits.
Donald Cameron.
Yesterday, the Union Prospect sent a letter signed by representatives of all 5 major political parties, as well as the 3 island local authority leaders, calling for an urgent meeting with the Transport Minister in light of the impact that this proposed centralisation will have on local jobs on the islands. And I understand that a ministerial meeting with stakeholders is proposed to happen in 2 months' time. But given the urgency here, will the First Minister instruct the Transport Minister to bring this meeting forward? And can she explain how this centralisation can be justified, given her government's stated intention to encourage people to move to our islands and reverse depopulation?
There are some serious and perfectly valid issues in there. These are complex issues where, of course, we want to see repopulation of our islands, but we've also got to make sure that there are sustainable services that support the connectivity of our islands, and these are often complex issues that require very careful thought. In terms of the Transport Minister meeting with Prospect, my understanding is that he's due to meet both STUC and Prospect next month to discuss aviation generally, but I'm sure this issue will feature. We'll certainly look to see whether diaries can enable that meeting to be brought forward. It is important that that engagement takes place. It's also important that HIAL, as I said in my original answer, engages directly with Prospect to address some of these issues that have been raised about how we can make, or they can make, these changes that improve the sustainability of the services. The kind of model that is being discussed here is one that already operates at, for example, London City Airport, which is very different, obviously, from our islands, but this is about the sustainability of these services longer term. So important issues are being raised by the Union here, and I would expect HIAL to engage properly with them. And as I said a moment ago, I will ask the Transport Minister to look to see whether the meeting can be accelerated.
Emma Roddick.
Clearly, this is very challenging for island communities who really value the air traffic provision being delivered locally, because it gives them a sense of security and it ensures that much needed skilled jobs are based in our islands. For obvious reasons, people are nervous about the implications of HIAL's new proposed centre in Inverness. What reassurance can the First Minister provide, particularly regarding what might happen to these jobs in future?
First Minister.
In terms of the jobs, the issues around relocation are important, and those were the ones I was alluding to. I think it is important that HIAL engages with the unions and with workers to look at how there are policies in place that allow workers, if they're working under this new system, nevertheless to continue to live in and contribute to our islands. That will not always be easy, but that is the work that we are expecting HIAL to engage in properly. Some of the other concerns, I've had these issues raised with me directly in Shetland, for example, are around safety. And again, these issues have got to be taken seriously. For example, Loganair, which is the main airline flying in the Highlands and Islands, and already operating under this system at London City, are supportive of the changes and the safety benefits that they say will be delivered. But also new air traffic control procedures and the operation of a centre like this will only go live following a rigorous assessment by and approval by the Civil Aviation Authority. So I do understand the concerns that are being raised here. I think it is important to say that, and therefore there is a responsibility on HIAL and indeed on the Scottish Government to seek to address those concerns as we move forward.
Rhoda Grant.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would disagree with the First Minister in that the programme is essential to ensure the long-term viability or indeed safety of air traffic in the Highlands and Islands. Digital Scotland classed the project as an amber red risk. Added to that, the Sumra radar project, which is part of this scheme, is currently believed to be running 6 to 12 months behind schedule and costs have already increased. Can I ask if the First Minister is still convinced that this is the right project to go forward with, and what steps she's taking to avoid another vanity transport project in the Highlands and Islands?
First Minister.
I thank Rhoda Grant for a question, and I think it is a perfectly reasonable question. I'm not sure anybody would describe this as a vanity project. There are sustainability issues in the services as are, and therefore this is about improving and securing the sustainability of the services in the future. In terms of some of Rhoda Grant's points, the project is still at an early stage, but it is proceeding in line with the approved business case, and HIAL obviously have the responsibility to ensure that that continues to be the case. And on the points about safety, again, there can be no compromise on safety on any aviation matter, which is why the point I made in my previous answer about the processes that have to be gone through, resulting in ultimately approval by the Civil Aviation Authority, are so important. So, again, just to say, I recognise these concerns. A change like this is always going to result in worries and questions for people, and therefore HIAL and indeed the Scottish Government will address those in order to give the reassurance that people need.
Question number 6, Mercedes Villalba.